breaking news as we continue to cover what a Trump presidency is going to look like in 2025. Take a look at this. We have a tweet here from the New York Times. This just in. Breaking news, Donald Trump is expected to name Senator Marco Rubio, a foreign policy hawk on China and Iran, as his Secretary of State. So Trump expecting to name Senator Marco Rubio there as his Secretary of State. Trump could still change his mind at the last minute, according to people familiar with the matter, but appeared to have settled on Rubio, whom he also considered when choosing his running mate this year. I'm reading from some copy in the New York Times, who first reported on this story. Rubio was elected to the Senate back in 2010 and has staked out a position as a foreign policy hawk, taking hard lines on China and Iran in particular. He initially found himself at odds with those Republicans who were more skeptical about interventions abroad, but he also echoed Trump more recently on issues like Russia's war against Ukraine, saying that the conflict has reached a stalemate and, quote, needs to be brought to a conclusion. So we are continuing, like I said, to bring all of these top headlines as we are looking at the Trump administration coming in 2025 and what that is going to look like, as we're seeing that more of these picks are coming out swiftly here. I do have some footage of Senator Marco Rubio that I'll put up on your screen at the moment as I continue to read some more from this reporting at the New York Times. The senator, a loyal surrogate for Mr. Trump during the campaign, even after being passed over as the vice presidential pick. A spokesman for Rubio declined to comment, and a spokesman for Trump did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Trump has made his choice for a number of other national security roles. He has selected Representative Michael Waltz, a Republican of Florida, to be his national security advisor, and Representative Elise Stefanik, Republican of New York, to be ambassador to the United Nations. I do want to bring up this tweet as well, as we are getting some reaction as to this potential pick from Trump, expected to be announced formally that Rubio will be the Secretary of State. Representative Carlos Jimenez saying this: congratulations to our very own Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who will be the highest serving Hispanic in American history. Let's go back to this live look at the White House at this moment as we continue to actually roll through some more tweets here. Rick Scott, who was just elected once again during this general election, saying, I'm thrilled for my friend, Florida colleague, and our next Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. He will restore American leadership around the world, especially in Latin America, as he represents the United States with dignity and courage. We'll wait to see if we get some more reactions from this. But in the meantime, we do just have the reporting from the New York Times first breaking this story that President-elect Donald Trump expecting to name Senator Marco Rubio of Florida as his Secretary of State. We also have this, a tweet from Fox News correspondent Chad Pergram saying a senior House GOP source tells Fox the Republican majority can lose no more than 2 House members to the Trump administration, Stefanik and likely one more. A quote, I don't know if the administration has a number in their head, saying the source there. Aisha Hosni, another Fox News correspondent, saying after Stefanik and Waltz, not likely to see any more admin picks from the House. Let's take a live look at the White House at this moment, because Marco Rubio is just the latest member to possibly have that cabinet position within the Trump administration. But over the last few days, we have brought you news of multiple picks from the president-elect. That includes Susie Wiles as his chief of staff, who Wiles was Trump's 2024 presidential campaign. She was the senior advisor to that campaign and its de facto manager. We also learned earlier today that Mike Waltz would be named national security advisor. Earlier on this week, Tom Homan as the border czar, with Haman being tasked with Trump's top priority of carrying out the largest deportation operation in the nation's history. And then, of course, Elise Stefanik has been named the ambassador to the United Nations within the Trump administration, and then Stephen Miller, deputy chief of staff for policy. And then earlier on, we also brought you the news that Lee Zeldin would be leading the Environmental Protection Agency. Let's get back out to this tweet from Reese Gorman saying this. Amid both Walz and Stefanik leaving the House to join the admin, there's real concern about the slim majority. A senior GOP aide telling him, quote, leadership should mandate vitamin C and chicken noodle soup so members don't get sick and miss votes. A live now look one more time before we go out to break, just going to recap really this breaking news story that we're bringing you. Courtesy of the New York Times, Donald Trump is expected to name Senator Marco Rubio, a foreign policy hawk on China and Iran, as his Secretary of State.